Welcome back, everyone. Or if you're new here, I'm Herman, your travel friend. And in today's video, I'm going to go over some of the tips and tricks that I've kind of learned, sometimes the hard way, in redeeming airline miles. Because a lot of us have seen on YouTube, especially, a lot of YouTubers showing these really high value redemptions for first class or business class cross, either transatlantic or across the Pacific for a really low value of points. So, for example, flying first class from New York City to Paris, or from LA to Tokyo in first class for like 50, 60,000 points. And one of the things that they don't really go over as much as I think it should be is that a lot of these redemptions are possible only through positioning flights. So in this video, I'm going to go over how to use positioning flights properly and why they work the way they do, as well as I'm going to give some alternatives to positioning flights and when they actually make sense or not. So let's get started. So what are positioning flights? These flights are flights that you take from a smaller home airport that might be closer to where you live to a larger airport with large hubs of international flights. So, for example, my home airport of Tampa is not very big, and there aren't many good selections for international travel. And those that are there, they're very expensive, both from using points and just paying cash. So, what I could do, the best example is where I can take a flight from Tampa to JFK in New York City, or from Tampa to Miami, that have very large hubs for several airlines, like Miami with their American Airlines super hub that goes all over Latin America, or JFK where it goes essentially all over the world. And from there, that's where I would actually book my flights using points from either of those two airports instead of my home airport. And that is actually what gives you the biggest redemptions, in part because you don't actually take a US carrier, you actually take a partner carrier that's usually from another country, and that is the I found to be really the key behind getting really high cent per point valuations when you redeem your points. And one thing you'll notice that when you're booking, let's say if you're just booking with points from your home airport to let's say Paris, is that if you have to transit through a middle airport that has a big international hub, you're going to notice that that segment in comparison to just the, let's say, JFK to Paris versus, in my case, Tampa to JFK, then JFK to Paris, that is going to be much, much, much higher because the domestic segment just takes so many points. And let's say if I use American Airlines, they really almost get you sometimes close to 1 cent per point for the domestic segment, whereas an international segment where you get a lot more value. So what I have done in the past is just pay for the domestic segment in cash and then redeem points for the international portion and use partner airlines for those flights that give me a much higher redemption. To demonstrate this, I'm going to go over a quick dummy booking to show you guys how much of a difference there really is. Here, the example that I'm going to be using is going from my home airport to Tokyo in a one-way segment using points. And because of it, I'm going to have to do a layover, of course, in a different, bigger airport. And the point redemption is a little bit high. And as you can see here, I'm going to have to be doing at least 2 layovers to get to Tokyo. Here, the cheapest in economy is 64,500 points. Premium economy is going to be well over 100,000. Yeah, 118,000 points. And business, for this much points, I wouldn't even consider it. I would just ignore it and just book premium or a main cabin at that point. But let's say if I wanted throw in a positioning flight so that I can get a higher redemption value for a particular segment of my one-way flight. Here I'm going to actually go from LAX to Tokyo using American Airlines points. And even right here, you can instantly see that it's going to be lower. Here, if I want to go economy, it's going to be 43,000 points nonstop. But I think the key here is that because LAX is a large hub for American Airlines, a lot of their American airline partner airlines are also flying out of that airport. So you can use American Airlines points to fly another airline, which I think is a much better deal, because if you're flying ultra long haul, I would personally suggest, from my experience, I would fly a partner airline instead of them. And here you can see that the redemption value, if you want to try to fly the longest segment, which is from LAX to Tokyo, an 11.5 hour flight, is going to be 50,000 American Airlines points one way, but it's going to be in premium economy rather than economy. Even though, yes, you may have to, like you see here, to get to LA, you're going to have to book a separate itinerary flight to get from your home airport to LA. But I would say that's going to be a lot cheaper, and you can just pay that with cash and then use your points to get the most value in the best cabin seat, which in this case, there aren't any in Japan Airlines for this date in business class, but there is premium, which I think is a lot better than economy, especially for such a long flight. And even though there is a similar option almost in American Airlines itself, I would probably just fly Japan Airlines. Just from past experience, I would recommend that instead. And if I want to compare how many points it takes versus how much it would be for this flight in cash, and if you wanted to compare how much it would take in cash to go on this exact same flight, I also did a comparison here, and I found that if I wanted to take that exact same one, flying Japan Airlines in premium economy, it is going to be over $2,000, meaning that your 50,000 point redemption for this flight will get you a 4 cents per point valuation when you do that comparison. And you might be thinking, why am I being so harsh on American Airlines? And that is because after flying from Dallas to Auckland, New Zealand, it was a 15-hour ultra long haul flight, one way in economy in American Airlines. I will never fly them ultra long haul ever again. It was so bad. The seats were terrible. I'm not a really tall guy, but the guy next to me was probably 6'1", 6'2". I'm pretty sure he felt like he was going to die. It was so cramped. So yes, that is why I'm being so harsh on them. But as you can see, using positioning flights really makes a big difference, and that is really where you can get the most value for your points. And leading from here, point number 2 in this video is going to be that in some cases, positioning flights really don't make sense. And that in particular is when you are a domestic flyer. Because I like to fly overseas a lot, using positioning flights makes a lot of sense for me. However, not everybody wants to do that. And if you only like to travel within the United States or just North America in general, that is totally fine as well. But in that case, positioning flights make absolutely no difference, because all your flights are going to be domestic carriers, where all their cent point valuations, it's not chart based or partner airlines. It's going to be just the airline that you're flying. However, there is, I think, one sweet spot where for an airline where your points may go a long way, and for some reason theirs are way better than other airlines that I've seen, and that is through Southwest. I'm not really a big fan of Southwest, but I think they're okay, and I think their points program is really good, and they have some really, really good valuations, as I've seen. Last year when I flew from Tampa to Denver, Colorado, the cent per point valuation, I was able to get at least a good 1.4 cent per point using their program. And even though I had some points from Southwest already that I had accumulated over the years, I was able to transfer some Chase points from Chase over to Southwest, because there are transfer partners of Chase. And with that, I was able to top off my points account with Southwest in order to cover up the missing amount of points that I would need to do the round trip flights from Tampa to Denver and Denver and back, and which I'm going to show you guys in a minute. As you can see on the screen here, my flight from Tampa to Denver, Denver back, in total would have been $337 if I paid cash. So here in this next screen, you will see that I used points for most of the flight. You always have to still pay taxes and fees that you always have to pay cash. You can't really cover that almost in any other way. But because of that, I was able to reduce the price overall though from $337 and had to only pay $11 using points. In the end, I was able to get almost 1.4 cents per point, which again, for domestic, that's actually quite rare. I think in the other airlines, in American Airlines, I usually don't really ever see that type of redemptions. Usually 1.1, 1.2 cent per point. Delta, it probably has the worst valuation. It's going to be 1.1. I think if you're lucky. United is okay, but I think Southwest has the best redemptions. Well, I hope you like this video. And because for the next few months, I'm not really going to be traveling as much as I normally do, I'm going to be pivoting to more of these types of videos in the time being. So that way I think I can still help you guys in finding some good redemptions, maybe planning your next trip, and just how to save money in general. So if you found this video helpful, like I just mentioned, please share it with a friend, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time.